Prosecute Baba Ramdev. All India Professional Congress has come forward in support of Indian Medical Association. They have filed a complaint with Delhi Police Commissioner and SHO Dwarka. They've also written to Union Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan asking him to take strong legal action against Baba Ramdev. The bone of contention is this viral video.
लाखों लोगों की मौत एलोपैथी की दवा खाने से हुई है. जितने लोगों की मौत हॉस्पिटल न जाने के कारण से हुई है, ऑक्सीजन न मिलने के कारण से हुई है, उससे ज्यादा लोगों की मौत ऑक्सीजन के बावजूद हुई है, दवा एलोपैथी की दवा मिलने के बावजूद हुई है, स्टीराइड की वजह से हुई है. ये कोई ताली बजाने की बात नहीं है, एक वैसी बात बता रहा हूं. ये पीड़ा की बात है कि लोग समझ ही नहीं रहे करें क्या.
Joining me is Avni Bansal, a Supreme Court lawyer and a member of All India Professional Congress. She argues that Baba Ramdev should be prosecuted, that sorry is not enough, that withdrawing his statement is not enough. Let me ask Avni. Avni, why do you think sorry is not enough?
See, Rukmini, the first principle of law is that law is equal for everybody, right? And you cannot discriminate. Now, we are all in the midst of an epidemic that is still far from over. It's very important for the government to regulate any kind of fake information, any kind of misinformation. There is a lot of tension in a lot of different parts of the countries. Now, when a person like Baba Ramdev, and I also elaborated my article, about Acharya Balakrishnan, the person who is a 99.6% owner of Patanjali Ayurved, comes in defense of Baba Ramdev's statements and then makes, I would say, more ridiculous statements himself. Is it just enough for us to say, it's his opinion, it's his freedom of speech and expression, when we clearly, do not treat everybody else's statements in the same way? I mean, just to give you one example, the Maharashtra government has booked about 51 people during the pandemic time, for spreading fake information. The Orissa government has followed suit. The Uttar Pradesh government has followed suit. And these are all normal people writing on their Facebook walls, something that may again be liberally interpreted. So there, suddenly our standard of law changes. And yet when it comes to somebody like Baba Ramdev, who has millions of followers on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, so on and so forth, makes a statement very, very confidently. And also, by the way, then goes on to say, not just that allopathy is stupid, not just that lakhs of people have died because of remdesivir and Flu, but then later is also seen, saying on camera that, kisi ka baap mujhe jail nahi bhijwa sakta. Now what is that kind of, impunity that people think that just because they're in power or well connected to those in power could enjoy? That, to my mind, is setting a very, very bad precedent in the eyes of law.
अब उनके खैर अरेस्ट तो किसी वो जो है उनका बाप भी कोई नहीं कर सकता स्वामी रामदेव को. लेकिन एक शोर मचा रहे हैं कि क्विक अरेस्ट स्वामी रामदेव.
And coming back, why do you think Ramdev's statements must be legally prosecuted? That's a strong point that you've been making in your article. Just explain to us, why do you think he must be legally prosecuted?
Yes, so see, there are two things I want to say, Rukmini. First there are Baba Ramdev statements, and then there are Acharya Balakrishna statement, who came in defense of Baba Ramdev. And let's just quickly look at what are some of the legal provisions under which both of these are not just, unfortunate, but that they're actually cognizable criminal offenses, right? Now, looking at Baba Ramdev's statements, first, one of the sections that I think could be invoked here is section 505 of the Indian Penal Code. I cite this in my article. I can very quickly cite it again. Section 505 of the Indian Penal Code is primarily about statements that amount to public mischief, and it has very many subsections. But I think section 505 subsection 1B would apply in this case. And if I may, we haven't heard anything from him yet. We are hopeful, though, that there will at least be a reply to what action has been taken in this regard. But so far, there's just a complete silence on the matter from both the law minister and the health minister.
Of what I know, IMA has also mentioned that if strict action is not taken against Baba Ramdev, they will take the democratic way of going to the court and actually challenging the fact that no action is being taken against him. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think IMA has made it clear that they may approach the courts, but then they also said that if Baba Ramdev apologizes, then maybe that's fine as well. I think the whole point is, and some people have come back saying that now why is IMA settling with just a sorry. My point is clearly sorry is not enough, but we still haven't even had a proper sorry, right? So the point is then again that discrimination, that if the courts think that this is under the ambit of Article 19(1)(a), has Baba Ramdev been made to pay in any way? In this country, we saw, a senior advocate of the stature of Mr. Prashant Bhushan still having to pay that 1 rupee. It wasn't a question of 1 rupee, and I think it was absolutely wrong to, have this case against him in the first place. But that's my opinion. The court had a different opinion, right? The court thought it was contempt of court, and the court went on to, issue this 1 rupee coin as a punishment because there's something called, symbolic teaching a lesson, setting a precedent in the court's eyes. Why does that become any different in Baba Ramdev's case?
I'll just go to your to one of your arguments. You say Ramdev's statements were deliberate and malicious. Why? Why do you call them malicious? It could be just his opinion, as we have been
Yes,
talking
they
about.
are deliberate and malicious, Rukmini, because here we need to remember that while Baba Ramdev has, made himself like this brand ambassador of yoga around the world, it has also come in a way that helps his business, right? So he's not just a Baba who's talking about spirituality and yoga. We have to be mindful that he's also building this huge, vast empire, right? In the name of Patanjali, right? And that has clear ramifications on his statements. So when you say that where lakhs of doctors have failed, and it's an opinion, that's fine. You can have an opinion, I can have an opinion. But when I say that, okay, lakhs of doctors have failed and allopathy has failed, and by the way, I have a product that I think can cure what your trouble is. I mean, it doesn't require too much brains really here to do 2 plus 2 4. In my opinion, Rukmini, what Acharya Balakrishna and Baba Ramdev are resorting to is marketing 101. You say something which is controversial, that's going to get you eyeballs, that people are just going to get crazy and jump on you, but all of that gets you publicity, and all of that gets people talking. And then you come out and say, well, kisi ne mera baal bhi baaka nahi kar paya, nobody could even touch me. And in the process, what you've done is not only have you strengthened yourself as a brand, the product that you're selling now has a bigger, wider audience. So that is where I say that it's not just another person expressing his or her opinion. It's also a question of what are you trying to do? Who are you in the market? And he's clearly somebody who's saying, here is my product that could be a cure. And now, of course, there has been a clarification that, at best, it could be like an immunity booster, so on and so forth. But it's a product nonetheless, and it's very much competing in the so-called, line of products which could help you during the COVID situation.
So you're basically saying that what Baba Ramdev is doing is positioning Patanjali versus allopathy, and he is trying to basically win that market and take over the market of medicine by maligning, and thus it's malicious in intent.
Absolutely, absolutely. And let this be on record, Rukmini, that it's very unfortunate that we are letting Baba Ramdev pitch this entire debate as allopathy versus yoga, or the other sciences. In India, we've always been a country where we have always had an inquiring mind. We have let people develop an inquisitive mind, develop the science that they believe in. Now, people want to believe in one form of medicine, they are free to, and that's fine. We have never looked at it as this or nothing else. But you see, this is a framing that not others but Baba Ramdev himself is interested in, because only when he gets that kind of pitching, it has a market sense to it, that people then don't go to allopathy or to the doctors or to the hospitals. Interestingly, although when he himself fell sick, he had to resort to allopathy. So that's kind of the double irony there. But the point is, of course, he's doing it with an intent, which is clear, which everybody can see, and nobody who's on the other side who's supporting allopathy as a modern science wants to say that therefore yoga is not right or other forms of medicine is not right. It is Baba Ramdev who's giving it that kind of framing, and for ulterior purposes, of course.
And although you've spoken about this briefly, but I'd like you to elaborate on this point again. You mentioned that Ramdev's statements violates Union government's advisory on curbing COVID misinformation. Just elaborate. What do you exactly mean by this?
So the advisory basically says that if there is any fake information during COVID times, it will be taken very seriously. The intermediaries should bring it down immediately, and the media should report on it very, very carefully. Now, since Baba Ramdev's statements, we will agree are false because nobody will believe or nobody can justify the statement that lakhs of people have died because of Remdesivir and Tamiflu. It's possible that they were safe, they were not safe, there were other complications, but nobody in their right mind could justify that people have died because of Remdesivir and Tamiflu, right? So when he makes statements like these are clearly false information, misinformation, fake information. If they're allowed to be on the internet, people will continue to look at these. And if somebody is having a patient in the family, and if they're a follower of Baba Ramdev, they may just think, well, whether should we go to allopathy or not, especially if they don't have the means for it. And they may be tempted to go for Baba's means, the means that Baba is prescribing. So I think to that extent, it's very important that we bring down these statements from the internet, and that this available video on YouTube where he's making these statements is deleted. Now, of course, one of the things is that Baba Ramdev said that what he was doing was merely reading a WhatsApp statement, right? But anybody who looks at that video, it's very clear that whether he was reading a WhatsApp statement or not, it clearly looked like that's what he himself is endorsing, and he has made no bones about it. That video becomes very, very clear. So why should these videos be allowed to be on the internet for people to see them and to be influenced, negatively from it? So the right thing to do is just, bring down these statements from wherever they are on the internet, and the government has the power to issue, and tell the intermediaries to do that. Just another important thing comes to my mind, Rukmini. Just recently, we saw the government really cracking down on the intermediaries, as one would say, right? All of the intermediaries in India were sent a notice by the law ministry, saying that they need to comply with certain regulations, so on and so forth. So on the one hand, the government is positioning itself, saying, they're going to be tough on the intermediaries. And yet, when it comes to people who are seen as really close with them, right? Then there's nothing to the intermediaries. In this case, there could be a simple, notice to the intermediaries requesting them to bring down all of Baba Ramdev's statements. That can be done in like literally, half an hour's job it is. But still, that hasn't happened yet.
That brings me back to the first question, Apni, and which happens to be your first and last point also in the article. Why is it important to prosecute Baba Ramdev?
See, because I think it's very clear that Baba Ramdev has made the statements fully aware of the consequences and with an intent to market his own product. In fact, there are states in India where Baba has made sure that his product is being marketed very, very widely. And it's also not only are these fake information, misinformation, they're also informations which are colored in a way to incite people against the medical fraternity. So for anybody who has the slightest of respect for the medical fraternity in India, I don't think that just a mere sorry is enough, although a sorry immediately is absolutely quintessential. And secondly, these information need to be brought down from the internet. What I would like, if I had it my way, was to go the 9 yards and actually prosecute him for his statements, which I think is the right thing to do, because there are clear offences in the Indian Penal Code and the Disaster Management Act, read with the Epidemic Diseases Act, that make his statements legally cognizable. But remember, in all of this, if we don't do it, what we're doing is we're setting a terrible example for other people to follow suit, and that remains one of my big worries.
Thank you very much, Avni. So that's Avni Bansal saying sorry is not enough and Baba Ramdev's statements amount to criminal offense. Thank you very much, Avni, for joining us.